Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc!
Welcome to Negative Camber, the Motorsport Show.
Far enough back, he's going to make the lunge down the inside!
The ultimate pit stop.
The safety car is coming in.
Fueling your passion for motorsport.
With an emotional moment that means everything.
All of the latest results, analysis, and interviews.
Roar the drivers on to the final lap of this race.
I'm Jamie Lemura, motorsport enthusiast, historian, and media presenter.
And I'm Lee Harrison, motorsport professional, Sprintmaster Australia race driver, and Formula One alumni.
And welcome to Negative Camber, and with me is my co-host, a very tired and exhausted Lee Harrison. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. No, I'm just thankful that we had those Bang energy drinks earlier on this afternoon to power me through this evening, because I tell you what, it's been an action-packed weekend, and I'm feeling it. I'm feeling my age today.
And with us this evening is our very special guest, current V8 Supercar driver and also TCR driver for the Gary Rogers Motorsport Alfa Romeo team, Michael Caruso. Thank you for joining the show.
How you going, boys?
Yeah, good, mate.
Had a great time.
Good. It's been a little while since we've seen you last. Yeah, thanks, mate. No worries. How you been?
Mate, not too bad. Probably much like everybody else, ready to get back out on track and get out there and mix it up in the race car. It's been quite some time since we got to race last, but I guess the good news is that there's been some announcements of motorsport coming back, so looking forward to it.
Mate, you'd have to be one of the unluckiest guys I know, in the respect that you left Melbourne last year and moved back to Sydney. You went from lockdown and then came into lockdown again. So how are you finding it?
Yeah, look, it is. It's been pretty tough, but everyone's obviously dealing with it at the moment, and we obviously did Melbourne last year and thought we moved back home to Sydney, and I'm originally from Sydney, but having lived in Melbourne 15 years for racing, thought it'd be time, a good opportunity to get back. I went straight into lockdown for Christmas, but anyhow, it is what it is, and it looks like I guess we're starting to sort of see that I guess the country is sort of heading towards opening up, or at least New South Wales is. So looking forward to it, and just like I said before, the big things really are is obviously the family, making sure everyone's all good and well, and then back to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, what are your thoughts on the up-and-coming Bathurst, I suppose, Super Week, if you want to call it that? It's probably, if not one of the most impressive motorsport event that I've seen for a long, long time.
Yeah, good question. I think it's fantastic, and it's probably amazing that it's taken these events of the last 2 years that we're now going to have 6 days of a. I guess it feels like it's going to be like a motorsport festival. There's that many different categories that are going to be racing there, and such a great opportunity. Obviously at the best track that we have in the country to sort of celebrate and get back on track, and then obviously finish it off on Sunday with the big race. Obviously the 1000. So I'm really excited to go there. I'm going to be there in the TCR car, obviously in the little Alpha, which is good. Really excited there. So good opportunity to kick my week off, hopefully in a positive way, get a few wins, and then hopefully come away with the big one on Sunday with Winterbottom.
You're only as good as your last race, mate. So it's and that ended up on a high. So how do you feel you're actually going to find the transition between, say, the TCR car and the V8s, considering they're vastly different cars?
Yeah, a lot of people are. I guess it's a pretty big talking point at the moment, which is really weird. Look, I think most of us, there's a few of us that are actually obviously co-drivers and are going to have to do that transition anyhow. But I can't really see it being an issue. Yes, one's left-hand drive and front-wheel drive and all. What else is there? It probably only weighs 1,000 kilos the car, and obviously the supercar is what it is, and it's going much faster. But I think, in my opinion, I guess this is something I've been doing since I was a kid. When I started racing in karts, we were racing in, two different classes on a race weekend, so they'd be completely different karts with different engines going at different speeds, and when you get to this level, if you can't manage it, you probably wouldn't have gotten there. To be fair, so I wouldn't say it's a challenge, but I'm looking forward to to obviously getting the most out of each car.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the great drivers are the ones that can adapt. That's what I always say. So Matt, you certainly stick right up there, mate, with your experience as well. So I'm assuming you're looking forward to working with Frosty and Team 18. Previously, for the last couple of years, you were working for Tickford. I'm assuming there's a vastly different approach by both teams.
Oh, completely different. Yeah, they're. Not only are they different methodology. Obviously one's a T8 sort of a built car with Team 18, and then Tickford do their own thing, which, it's really interesting dynamic that they have in Tickford, but I'm really happy to switch, to be fair, at Team 18, and I get along really well with Mark. I just mentioned earlier that from karting, Mark and I race each other since I was 12 years old, so we know each other really well. We've known each other longer than we've known our wives, so so it's a bit like that in pit lane. You compete against each other for such a long period of time, and we've been fortunate enough to now team up, like you said, and I think that's really important as well, that you have good respect for each other and each other's ability, because that race amongst the guys and girls working on the car, it's going to come down to everybody having faith and doing the best job they can on the day. Yeah,
absolutely. First chance, I think correct me if I'm wrong, that you've had the opportunity to drive Triple 8 equipment, and let's face it, everyone's wanted to try and drive Triple 8 equipment. How have you found that in comparison to the Mustang? It may be a silly question, but for our listeners that might not know as much, it'd be good to get some insight.
Yeah, they're completely different. It's completely different understanding of how they set up a race car, and it's actually quite amazing that when we watch qualifying or even in the racing, they're separated. All the cars are separated by thousandths of a second most of the time. And the style of setup, being really different, and different technique to actually get the most out of the car is really interesting as well. So, I've found the transition. Obviously the T8 thing is what it is, and there's a reason why they've been so successful. So, I'm really enjoying it. I haven't had many laps, to be fair, though, considering what's going on this year, and it sounds like we'll get some laps before Bathurst anyhow at SMP. So, I'm looking forward to that, because, like I said earlier, having not been able to do many laps this year, it's going to be a great opportunity to get warmed up before the big one.
Yeah, they Supercars have just released the remaining sort of fixture, if you want to call it, leading up to Bathurst, and all the events are actually going to be held at SMP. Is that right?
Yeah, they are.
Yep. And so there's going to be co-driver sessions for that, or is there going to be a dedicated co-driver race or of some sort?
There's a few different things being spoken about, but I'm hearing there's going to be a test day. So, which obviously at the moment every team's probably normally in this scenario everyone leaves a test day till a couple of weeks before Bathurst to prepare themselves. Obviously, no one's been able to do that test day, so it makes sense that they'll do it while they're all in town at Sydney. And obviously being not too far out from, I'm lucky because I'm in Sydney, so I'll be able to head out and actually do it really easy. But I'm sure that it wouldn't be too hard to get the co-drivers in, and most teams probably will to that test day to get laps.
Yeah, in terms of some sort of physical training to keep yourself physically fit leading up to the race. It's been difficult with lockdowns and that type of thing. What have you been doing in the meantime to try and keep yourself sort of physically sharp as best as you can?
Yeah, it's actually a really good point you raised. Our gyms have been closed for some time now, I think 4 months. So that side's been really hard. But I do a lot of cycling, so for those that know their cycling will probably appreciate that I'd ride on a Colinago, so a nice Italian bike. But
C50 or a C59?
I've got a C60.
Beauty.
But
Nice.
I'm ready to do an upgrade. Which is so I'm sort of thinking about what I want to get next. Obviously, I want to stay Italian.
Yep.
So I do quite a bit of riding, and I'm in a really good spot where I'm in Sydney as well. So there's quiet roads where I can spend a bit of time. Keeping my at least my cardio fitness up, but I've also got a bit of a home gym set up here as well. So it's been pretty fortunate that I can sort of keep myself going because it's pretty difficult if you don't have the facilities to keep yourself in top shape. You leave yourself really vulnerable when it comes to the racing.
Yeah. We'll probably cover TCR for a little bit now. What have your thoughts been on your first TCR season with the Alpha? And, what would you say would be your, what would you rate yourself, I guess, out of 10 so far?
Good question. I mean, this year's been interesting. We didn't start off too well. I missed the first test day because I was in lockdown in Sydney. So we turned up to Tasmania. Had not been in the car for 12 months, and it was a bit of a tough one because we got taken out in the first race after having an electrical problem, which was a bit disappointing. So that sort of ruined that whole weekend. And I'm just trying to remember where we went next.
Baskerville.
To be honest, it feels like it was that long ago.
Yeah. Did you go to Baskerville after that for the special round?
I didn't get to race at that race either because I had to come back home because of the whole restriction policy that they had in place at the time. So,
yep. It was Phillip Island. That's right.
Phillip Island.
Yeah.
We're in a good little spot. I think we qualified on the second row, and my good friend David Reynolds
put the markers on you.
Come and open the door while it was raining, do a bit of a pre-race interview, and a bunch of water came in the car, and then the whole windscreen fogged up. So that was, the difficult thing about TCR is you qualify, but where you finish the first race is where you start the second race.
Okay.
So if you have a bad first race, you go to the back, obviously, or wherever you finish, and then you got to try to make your way back up in the next two races. So, it made the first two events pretty hard, and then we went to Bathurst, and I think there was only a few cars that actually got a clean lap in, and we started down the back, and by the time we got towards the front, it was the end of the weekend where we had a four-lap race. So, anyway, it was tough for opening few rounds, but I thought it was pretty good that we could turn it all around at SMP, and as you said a bit earlier, come away with the win because it's not a track that's probably suited to the Alpha.
Yep. And
to beat the Hyundais who should clearly have a big advantage at that circuit. It showed that we've made some big gains in between those events.
Yeah, it's are you you're going to be doing another year in the Alpha with GRM? Is that a contract?
Yeah, I am, mate. I'll be another year in the Alpha. So
cool.
To all the Alpha lovers out there, come out and support us. Love it. It's a good little car. They're obviously really quick. GRM are obviously the agent for Alpha here in Australia, so the relationship works really well. But obviously as a young boy with Italian heritage, it's pretty cool to be able to win races in the manufacturer like Alpha, and I know my dad loves it as well, which is nice to see on the side of the track.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's my brother's actually got a Giulietta Cloverleaf, so in exactly the same spec as yours. So it's a fantastic little car to drive, very zippy as well. So for myself, I've actually been a massive fan of TCR. It reminds me a lot of the Super Touring era, which I'm a massive fan about as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was a good era. Pretty hard to forget the famous Alpha that Tarquini was in, and obviously pretty dominant. And they're a good car, and I think when racing resumes, which it's likely to obviously be at Sydney Motorsport Park again, looking forward to trying to come away with some more results.
Yeah, no, excellent. Michael, you okay to hang on the line? We're going to go for a short break. We'll come back very shortly after some messages and sponsors, and we'll explore a little bit about Below the Bonnet and that Italian heritage of yours.
No problem, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Ready to turn your karting dreams into reality? Look no further than ProKart's Race Centre. Imagine hitting the track in the kart of your dreams, a ride that matches your budget and aspirations perfectly. With our pre-loved kart sourcing service, we make it happen. Our experienced team isn't just about mechanics, they're dream builders. We meticulously hand-pick each kart, ensuring reliability, performance and sheer exhilaration. Whether you're a seasoned racer looking for an upgrade or a newcomer stepping into the world of karting, we're your pit crew, your partners in racing dreams. Get ready to feel the wind in your hair, the thrill in your heart and the victory at your fingertips with ProKart's Race Centre, where dreams truly come to life. Visit prokartsracecentre.com.au or pop in for a chat at 30 Research Road, Paraka. ProKart's Race Centre, fueling your dreams, igniting your potential.
We have our guest Michael Caruso on the line. Welcome back, mate. It's I guess Caruso obviously being an Italian surname. Tell us a little bit more about your Italian heritage. I guess where your parents came from or grandparents, etc.
My dad, I can't even remember what year he came over here, but he's from Calabria in Catanzaro, and he came over as a young kid, and like most of the old folk, they did it pretty hard and they worked really, really hard. So I was really fortunate that he, sort of allowed me to follow my dream, which was something that he always wanted to do, but obviously couldn't afford to do at the time. So, we're obviously very big Ferrari fans, fair to say, and we'll be watching tonight very intently with Carlos on the second row, because I know how exciting it is to sort of see them go well. And it's, as I said earlier, with the Alpha connection as well, it's, I think for all of us that have that background, and even those that don't, that the brands and I get, from everything, even food, and as I said earlier with the bikes, it's something that we love following and supporting.
Yeah, absolutely. Ironically enough, I'm half Calabrian as well. So my mum comes from a little paese called Carreri, so it's more in the hills of Calabria as well. So half Sicilian too, mate. So as they say in Italian, testa dura for sure. So, how did you get into motorsport? So tell us a little bit about your journey to where you are today.
Yeah, my dad used to. Basically, when he came out here, he obviously loved cars and what have you, and he started working as a mechanic and built his own race cars and racing sports events, but he was also a mechanic on Kevin Bartlett's car in Formula 5000, and basically from there, as I said, he sort of got to a point, when I got to an age of understanding and how much, obviously wanted to be like Dad and go racing. He, went out and bought me a go-kart. I think I was 12 years old. Still remember getting it. Had to be an Italian go-kart, as you can imagine. So it was a DAP go-kart, and so it was a red go-kart. And the first thing I remember doing is putting a Ferrari or a Scuderia Ferrari sticker on the NASA panel, right smack bang in the middle, and the rest is history from there, mate. Just motor racing, flat out.
You sound like my co-host here, who has Scuderia Ferrari badges on all of his go-karts. But you obviously transitioned into Tony Karts and then made Tony Karts your home. One of our viewers has asked us to ask you the question, what was your favourite Tony Kart chassis that you drove through your karting time?
Great question. I was really fortunate with Tony Kart. I was driving for the importer, so we had so many different different karts to use. But I think the Extreme model, I was really successful with that car, that particular model, and we've still got one at home that I won one of the championships in, and it's something that that I obviously don't forget, but it's nice to be able to have one to push my little kid around in it now, and I'm actually a bit worried that my dad's trying to get him into karting.
It's a natural progression, I think. I've seen a couple of your old race engines actually kicking around on Facebook recently. Maybe a return to some retro karting might be in the cards if you've got the chassis there already.
I don't know, maybe.
With in regards to going to Europe, did you ever get a chance to race overseas or had aspirations to do that?
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, that connection and that love for Ferrari, obviously wanted to go over and try to be a Formula 1 driver, but it's a very tough gig, as we know, and we're lucky what we're seeing at the moment with the likes of Piastri and Doohan and obviously Ricciardo doing really well, but it costs a lot of money, and I travelled Europe for about 4 months just after I finished karting, or Formula 3 rather, and trying to get a gig, and got within 2 days of heading over to Barcelona to race Formula 3000 there after I did a test with Coloni, and I remember at the time, because it's one of those untold stories of motorsport, how expensive it is, and they after we tested in Maggiorni in Italy, we came back and they were really happy with how I went, and they said, okay, instead of it being I think it was like €900,000, we'll give you a deal because you've tested really well. It's going to be €550,000 to race for us next year, which when you stack it up, the euro to obviously the Aussie dollar is quite a bit. So we just didn't have the money, so I came back and then from there obviously got into supercars, which is obviously it's been what it's been.
It's actually a good point that you raised. That was actually going to be my next question. Can you describe to us your first Bathurst 1000 experience?
It was an interesting one. It wasn't one that I would have liked to have been my first one. I was driving in Development Series, and my first time at Bathurst, and there was a driver by the name Mark Porter who had a really big accident.
Oh, was that back in 06?
Yeah, and I remember Brad Jones coming up into our truck. We'd just finished racing for the day, and he said, look, we obviously still want to run the car, and the team, wanted to put someone in and asked me to come and do the job, and the team were great. Everyone at BJR were fantastic, really welcoming, and obviously they were going through a hard time as well. So, so that was my first experience at Bathurst, but unfortunately the car, I can't remember my co-driver at the time, but he had an accident turn 2, so I only got one stint in the car. But so that was my first experience, mate.
It's definitely one of those races where it's so hard to win, and then when you do get those opportunities that so close so far. But I guess you've been fortunate enough to stand on the podium with was it Lee Holdsworth?
Yeah, we had a good year that year in 09, and it was an interesting race. It was wet to the start of it, and had a bit of a moment over the top of the hill and managed to keep it off the wall by sheer miracle, and we managed to fight our way back and get on the podium, and we actually, by only a few thousandths of a second, beat Murph and Scaife to get third, which is pretty cool, because obviously those two guys are very accomplished and extremely capable, particularly in that era as well.
Yeah. Well, we've got one last question before we have to end the show, because we're actually going over to do a telecast of Juventus versus Sampdoria. So
I'm about to watch that, mate. Don't worry. I'm a Juventus fan. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, very quickly, what are your thoughts on the return of Allegri?
Look, the club's going through a tough period. There's no doubt, and but it's hard to take away what Pirlo did. He had a bit of a hard run, but I think the type of football he was playing was nice. But look, as I say to my friends in Max, we trust. He knows what he's doing. He knows the club really well, and I think the players that we have as well. You know, we've got a team that we can build for the next era of success, and you know, like Locatelli and even Mosey Keane. You know, I think these blokes are going to be the foundation of our team, and hopefully we can keep hold of the lid, because you know he's really going to be the next amazing centre back for years to come. So they build a team around those type of guys, which I'm sure they're very much aware of, like Max. We can do the goods.
Couldn't agree with you more, mate. And unfortunately, we've got to wind it up and end the show. We'll have to get you back on, and because we haven't even covered Below the Bonnet, and that was actually the show that actually inspired us to this point, to where we are today. So we'll have to get you.
Boys.
Yeah, thank you, mate. You inspired us and continue to do so. So, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
No, thanks for having me on, boys.
No worries.
Cheers, Michael.
You've reached the checkered flag of another episode of Negative Camber, the Motorsport Show. A huge thank you to you, our incredible listeners. Your support and passion for motorsports fuels our enthusiasm to bring you the latest results, analysis, and interviews from the racing world. Keep that FOMO at bay by subscribing to Negative Camber on your favourite podcast platform. We'd also love it if you could leave us a review and share the show with fellow racing enthusiasts. Your feedback and support mean the world to us. Remember, Negative Camber is more than just a podcast. We're a community of dedicated fans who live and breathe motorsports. Follow us on socials, join us on our website, negativecamber.co, and be sure to subscribe to the Negative Camber Club for access to exclusive content, episode previews, and special deals from our amazing partners. A huge thank you goes out to our podium partners and our incredible sponsors. Your partnership allows us to continue bringing you this show and dive deeper into the world of motorsports. If your business adds value to the motorsport community, get in touch with us to become a Negative Camber partner. So until next time, stay fueled with passion, embrace the Negative Camber, and keep chasing those podium finishes.